Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. Copt, an earful but worth it. Hey guys, long time lurker, first time poster here. I have fixed the spelling of copt in the body of the text. For context, my wife and I love each other very much, but like every couple we can occasionally blow up over nothing really. So I run a number of small business as a side hustle. I keep my wife informed of pretty much every major decision. The minor routine stuff I just deal with as they are not important enough to bring up unless conversation goes that way at the dinner table. We were enjoying time together and I, as a loving husband, I informed her of this particular minor routine issue that happens all the time with the side hustle. She blew up. For what I can tell, no good reason at all. Accusing me of keeping her out of the loop. This is a 10 minutes job BTW. I was extraordinarily confused, especially since I had just opened up and told her about the non-issue I had dealt with. I thought she would be happy I am taking on extra responsibilities and stress so she doesn't have to deal with it. Her job is a doctor, and it's stressful enough. Needless to say, I was wrong. I'm not looking for an argument, but she just kept coming at me over it. So calmly I say, what is it you want me to do? How can you feel more included? She asks me to send her all the email communications so she can stay on top of everything mentally. No problems. Here comes the pretty revenge. I forwarded her hundreds of emails over the last couple of months. Issues I dealt with, responses from suppliers, tax accountants. Even if we already had the conversations previously, she got the emails. Every single one. Even if it was rubbish. I copped an earful the next day. To which I responded, you wanted to be informed. Petty revenge complete. A kiss and a cuddle later, we are all good, but I had some fun with it. Story 2. Be careful who you screw over. This takes place over the last few years. I worked for a firm that was bought out by a giant firm, which means everyone is going to get laid off at some point. A lady started in my department. I call her Caroline. She has no street smarts, in that she says and does stupid stuff that make no sense that always have people scratching their heads. She was not a well-liked person from the get-go. She's the type of person would tell the boss if someone came in 15 minutes late and think she was doing something good. So she started trying to take my work I've been doing for years before she got there. We have the same boss. I say in an email chain that she's included the boss on "you're not taking my work. I've been doing this for years." She replies with, "Let's just see what Daryl says." Daryl was our boss. He was nearing retirement, was a nice guy with no backbone whose ass she kissed from the get-go. Sure enough, she's convinced him to let her take some of the stuff I do. Screw her. She keeps doing it too and slowly starts taking over more of the stuff I do. Eventually I get laid off. This was in 2016. I end up at a firm and I hear she's been laid off a few months later. At the firm I'm at, we're hiring and the HR person comes in my office and says, "Hey, someone from your old firm, Caroline, applied for the job. What do you say about that?" I tell them if they even consider hiring her, I'll quit. So no job for her. This job ended up not working out and I went to a bigger firm which I'm still at today. Sure enough, after about a year, the HR person comes into my office and says, "We got a resume from someone from your old job, Caroline, is she good?" I tell her she's awful. Absolutely terrible. So now she's trying to talk me into it. Can't we train her? Again, I say if you hire her, I'll quit the next minute. I will not work with her. 2 jobs this twat did not get. Story 3. Last Christmas. Update at the end of the post. Last year I got whammed by my now 12-year-old daughter. On the first day of December someone had blasted the song on the schoolyard, whamming everyone, so she decided to make me ride joyously into Whamhalla with her and simply put it on right next to me, the adorable little gremlin of a child she is. Well, never underestimate the pettiness of someone with 3 times worth of your life experience. She has an old-fashioned phone and mostly listens to music saved on an SD card. Today I took her phone with the excuse of adding on it some songs she's been asking for. Tomorrow, everything is going to look the same as before, only with a couple of new songs added. Except every single one of those songs, old and new, is Last Christmas. Torn by Ava Max? Last Christmas. Faded by Alan Walker? Last Christmas. Arcade by Duncan Lawrence? Last Christmas. Sorry kid. You will be witnessed. Update, she did it. Whammed the whole family while doing it, and it took her a while to get what was going on. Then she was a bit miffed for a second, then she laughed. Her brother laughed even more, though. And she told me she's spent the year trying to figure out a way to make the song start playing when we turn on the remote-controlled Christmas lights we have. I'm kind of relieved she didn't manage it. Story 4. Keep blabbing on the phone on the train. Enjoy a bouquet of petty little annoyances. This is happening right now. I'm on the train and there is a guy on my four-seater, across from me, who has made 5 or so calls in the last 2 hours. Sadly, I can't be obviously obnoxious back to him because my colleagues are traveling with me. What I did so far? Listening to music, over my headphones, and tapping my foot so close to his foot that he definitely must feel the vibrations. Striking up conversations with my colleagues so that he gets to know what it feels like when more than one obnoxious asshole is loud. He then always furrows his brow and looks at me. Getting up and sitting back down surprisingly often, and 2 times I bumped the back of his laptop, so now he guards it against bumps when I move. One of my colleagues gave us some little chocolates. Dude looked as if he hoped that we would offer him some, too, so I am eating those chocolates very slowly, one about every 5 minutes. Each time he looks at me like a golden retriever from below the dinner table. I sometimes make eye contact and smile pleasantly. Half an hour to go. Story 5. I guess we're both losing some sleep to our respective taste in music. I was staying in an older motel/motor inn. My room has one of those doors in the wall for adjoining rooms. The person next door was playing theater music, some poppy stuff I don't listen to, so it sounds more like noise, just loud enough I could hear it when the A/C turned down. It was after midnight and I'd been up since 5 a.m. I had to put in earbuds to get to sleep. Yes, I could knocked on the door and said something, but social anxiety and not knowing how they might react, like playing their music even louder. The next morning, I decided to wake him up with some Slipknot before I forget, with my phone pressed against the crack of the adjoining door with the volume at 11, for a phone, while I was packing up to check out. Story 6. Sound off 1-2-11. Many years ago, in the days of my youth and carefree life, also when I had money to spare, I had a car. It was my first car, a '84 Honda Accord. Now this car was the first real freedom I had and I was going to make it my own, so a good friend of mine asked why didn't I put a reasonable sound system in it since I liked listening to music. Well, we went to an automotive store that was having opening day specials and got a bunch of speakers, and we spent the next few weeks installing and tweaking them sound better, but it was never enough. Fast forward several months later and I had new speakers, subs, amps, capacitors, and we could feel the difference. So could the whole neighborhood when we turned it up. Got to love disposable income. It wasn't by any means a professional install, but it was solid and did the job. A couple of years later I left for work elsewhere, moving to the other end of the country, but missed the sound of the sea, so would regularly go to a car park area and listen to the surf, and sometimes accidentally sleep there overnight as it would lull me off. Now, when I was driving around, I normally would have the music reasonably loud but nothing over the top, but then turn it down when I parked up so I wouldn't annoy others. This particular day I parked up in one of the last spots next to what would later be referred to as a boy racer/early street racer car. They must have taken exception to either my music or to the volume when I pulled in and decided to turn the volume up on their music. Not being able to hear to surf crashing anymore, I decided to play their game and turned mine up so I could only just not hear theirs. This did not sit well with them and they turned theirs up further, so I decided stuff it, let's go for broke. I started the car back up, at which they looked happy. I then put some earplugs in, always had lots of them in the car due to work, then cranked the volume up to the point where I thought I was going to do serious damage to the car. Have since learned it takes a bigger system than what I had to do real damage. At which point you could see the people in the other car laughing at the driver and the driver getting frustrated. They left the site about a minute to two later, at which point I turned the system off and listened to the waves crashing. Story 7. You stole all the hot cocoa. Not mine, but someone I knew. We'll call my friend Billy, co-worker Karen. Our work gives a monthly supply of hot chocolate and Billy loves drinking that shit. One day he came in and they were all gone. Not too long after, a refill too. Billy was asking around the office and found that the Karen of the office took them all. Billy said he wanted one. Well, you can ask for them and I'll give it to you, as if they belonged to her. My friend came into work super early for some extra hours when he decided that he was going to break into her desk and cut open all of the bags. She still managed to use them, but never stole the entirety of our supply again. Story 8. If you won't obey the traffic rules, I'll find your consequences for you. Hopefully this is the right sub to post this in. First time posting in Reddit. This happened a few years ago when the laws about texting and driving had just come into effect and law enforcement were very heavy on handing out tickets. Usual, I am on my phone. Apologies for formatting spiel. Years ago I was driving to location A from location B during rush hour. I was following this car that was being very annoying with their driving habits, wouldn't go when cars in front of them would, veering off to one lane, and I could see in their rear view mirror they were very obviously texting while actively driving, back when people would text for the entire length of the drive and not just at a red light. So I'm in the right lane behind this terrible driver, and when I look to the car beside me in the left lane, I noticed it's an undercover cop. I look at the car ahead of me and the driver has her head down, obviously texting and completely oblivious to the cop behind her. Light turns green. I wait. I'm not a complete butt-face. I will give her an opportunity to realize what's going on and be the responsible driver she should be. She doesn't move. I look at the cop, he looks at me, I honk on my horn, she literally jumps in her seat in her car, moves 2 inches and he flips on his lights. I had my windows down and I'm pretty sure I was cackling as I drove by. I may not agree with all of the rules and laws, but when it comes to road safety I do not play around. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.